congratulations on
you.
this very, very effective, very unusual film. First question's got to be, what's a nice girl like you doing in a genre like this? What's the appeal? Why?
What's the appeal? I mean, I don't think it has something to do with the fact that I'm a girl. I don't see that it's relevant for that matter. But I think the appeal in general for horror is that the first thing is that you can express some kind of anger and violence that you feel inside of you. And you can communicate it in a way that is understandable and relatable by the audience. And I think all that is actually very healthy and sane. And I think it's very important to be able to express these kind of things in a channeled and creative way and productive way.
This is you channeling anger?
Of course.
What are you angry about?
Oh, I mean, I'm angry about many things, as everyone. I think mostly, for that matter, for example, I'm angry at the fact that the way women's bodies are portrayed in films or TV shows or commercials is extremely objectifying and diminishing in many ways, and I tried to do something against that with this movie and to show bodies as trivial as they are and as funny and grotesque and likable as they are as well, and also to portray the birth of a sexuality in a way that is completely confident, unapologetic and absolutely without shame, which is also something that was important to me. And there is also, of course, a political aspect to the movie.
Now, it is a terrific film. You've made a really, really interesting movie. It's quite engrossing, and it's very... Look, I've been twisting myself trying to describe the film. How do you describe the film? Is it a rites of passage film meets cannibal apocalypse movie? What is she? Every 10 to 15 minutes in the movie, you're asking yourself, what the WTF, which is great because you never actually know what's kind of going on until about the last 60 seconds of the film. So I'm having trouble describing the film, but you wrote it, you directed it, you describe it.
Thank you. First thing first, this actually what I love when about the movies that that I feel for in the theaters and stuff are movies that I never know where they're going. I love that about movies, and I'm thinking, for example, about Ben Whitley's Kill List, where you're constantly wondering.
Movie,
amazing movie, a brilliant movie, and it was always like, what am I watching? What am I watching? And the movie kind of like mutates from one scene to another and develops in ways that you would never have. And you have the red thread of the body movie that stays there and makes you love them, whatever they're going through. And I think this is absolutely remarkable, the way he does this. And this is, for me, is really smart entertainment. The fact that you always question the object that you're looking at, and then you question yourself as an audience, which is very, very much what movie is all about.
Would you dare try to describe the film in terms of what it's about?
My movie.
Your movie.
Well, to answer your second question before, I would define it as a crossover between drama, comedy, and body horror. This is the story of a young girl who comes from a family where everyone is a veterinarian and a vegetarian, and since she's a gifted child, she gets into vet school before everyone. She's 16, and she goes to the school where her parents used to be students and where her older sister is a student as well. From the first night on, she's being hazed like crazy, and the first thing they ask her to do is something that she has never done before, which is eating raw meat, and then you'll see how it develops.
Now, I understand that the inspiration for this film was distilled from 3 taboos that you identify in human nature, which is murder, incest, and cannibalism.
I didn't identify. I think probably Levi-Strauss identified them like this.
Okay.
I'm not a famous anthropologist for people who just came into the show.
Point taken.
I mean, for me, this thing was that What's interesting about cannibalism is that people tend to qualify cannibals as being monsters or inhuman, like they don't belong to humanity, when it is actually part of the three taboos of humanity. So it means it's in us and it belongs to us, and we have to accept that. They're not werewolf or vampire. Again, they really do exist. And if already the line between animals and humans is so thin, then you can imagine the line between a human and another human being who's a cannibal, it's even thinner. So I always ask myself the question, what's the difference between us, really?
This film is so well directed. I'm eager to know if you were using any particular directors as your cue, because it's such a well-structured film. As I said, it's continually building. The intensity continually builds as you continually ask yourself, wanting to know what's going on. So the tension is gradually building. Were you modeling yourself on any particular directors?
No. I mean, I have plenty of idols, obviously, but if you write and direct thinking about someone else's work, I think you're pretty much castrating yourself. And I really go with my gut feelings a lot, especially when directing. And when writing, it's really 3 years of painstaking effort.
Right, 3 years to write it.
Yeah.
It shows.
Yeah.
It's so intricately structured. Just very quickly, some of your favourite directors. I'm imagining Hitchcock, Cronenberg, De Palma, or are they just the usual suspects?
You're good with Cronenberg very much. Hitchcock is a master, but he's not someone you can actually relate to, I think. It's not like it doesn't make you feel things. When you watch them, you're like, wow, this is technical, this is amazing, but it doesn't really about feelings. It's more about symbols. But no, Cronenberg definitely is my ultimate idol, yeah.
Now, the horror genre is full of cliches and conventions. That's actually part of the appeal. That's why people like to go. They like to know what they're going to get. You've gone the other way. You seem to have deliberately done something that actually has, as far as I can tell, no cliches. I would classify your film as part of new school horror. Films like Let the Right One In, for instance.
Yeah,
films that are set mainly in daylight, where there are basically none of the cliches or conventions that we normally see in films. Did you do that deliberately?
Oh, of course. I mean, I still don't know if I belong to any school or anything. I would be glad to meet other people who have done the same journey in their head when they were writing, actually. But yeah, I mean, of course, I did it on purpose. I mean, me personally, I hate when what I expect happens. It's always very disappointed, I think, and also it doesn't make you active. It makes you passive when you watch a movie. It's very important to be active.
Also, please don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or try to impose any sort of feminist reading or intent on the film, but were you also reacting against the traditional portrayal of women as victims and of torture porn, that sort of thing?
Not directly. I mean, it's not against this movie particularly, because for me it's not really relevant. It's not a fight in between genre of horror. For me, it's different types of horror. I mean, it's I was clearly rebelling against a certain image portrayed in the media of the women's bodies and the young girls' bodies, and especially the sexuality, which is always shown as something very hesitant and ashamed and fearful. And I really wanted to stop with this victim status that we had. Yeah.
Now, there's a scene in the movie where one of the girls sees the other girl at work in the vet school, and she has her arm
in the ass of a cow.
Well, I was going to say in a particular place, but if you want to put it that way, that's fine.
Well, that's the place.
Was that simulated or was that real?
That's real.
Okay.
That's real.
My question to you is why? Why, as a director, did you do that real when you could have simulated it? You could have suggested it, but you did it for real. What's the? Why does the director?
It's very interesting your question, because I actually never considered 1 second to simulate it. So I'm very taken aback what you're asking me, because it's like you tell me there was another option actually, and I never thought about that option, like never. And it was really, for me, I thought this is gonna give so much credit to my vet school in my movie. You know, it's a small transition scene, and we see that and we believe it instantly. So for me, it had to be for real. Yeah, I don't know. And also, my actress liked it.
Can you just tell me quickly? Well, I mean, it's remarkable because it does. It just puts you right in the middle of the school, and I love the fact that it's real.
Yeah.
Because it shows how far you're now willing to go. So if you're setting the mark, this high, this early in the film, it kind of just opens up the possibilities. So kudos for having the guts to do that.
Thank you.
Can you just quickly tell me about the journey that the film has had from your initial intentions for the film to its screening at Cannes to now, where I understand you're in the middle of making deals for the movie? Can you just tell me quickly about the journey of the film?
Well, in between the first word put on the page and Cannes, there has been 4.5 years. So it's been 5 years now, as I talk to you, which is a lot. It's a lot of big part of my life, obviously. As I don't know if it's the same for you here, guys, but I don't think so. But in France, we have really this culture of writing and directing. So it takes way more time for a director to make a movie because usually we write them by ourselves, which is not very customary anywhere else. And what can I say? It's just that I spent 5 years of my life, not 5 years, 4.5 years wondering if people would understand my gesture and would understand why I needed to talk about cannibalism today. And I arrive in Cannes and bing, there are 3 other movies that talk about cannibalism. And I think this is amazing. It says a lot about our society, you know. And I was kind of relieved in a way because I was very afraid that I was off in terms of like vision of our society, of the way the world we live in. And I realized that I wasn't off, that I was right spot on, and that actually I was so spot on and other people also felt like this. And I felt very relieved about that.
Now, could I just ask you just a couple of general questions? Because France has a very powerful and unique filmmaking culture. Now, over the last 25 years, there has been, if you like, a divide or two different schools of thought about the kinds of films that French directors should be making. You're probably aware of, Jean Reno and many other directors who've basically come out and they have said, we need to get away from the art school, we need to get away from the art houses and make much more popular films, action films that sell into big territories. So there's that kind. I mean, do you recognize that kind of tension in the French film industry, or do you sort of happily blend them together? Because you're an auteur, you wrote and directed this film, but you've written and directed a genre film, but you've written and directed a genre film that's quite unique and without cliches.
And art house as well.
Yes.
No, but the thing is that, I do feel this very big gap in between big budget comedies or action stuff and the smaller things that unfortunately no one ever sees anymore because they don't stay long enough in the box office and stuff like that. And the thing is that in France, I don't know why, but we have decided that auteur and genre, whichever genre it is, it can be comedy, action, thriller, you name it, but auteur is a genre, is a type of movies in particular, and there is the rest. And it means that the rest can only be stupid, and the only intelligent kind of way of making movies is to make auteur movies. But I don't get that, because for me an auteur is anyone who has a strong vision, a unique vision, and can communicate it. This is an auteur, whichever grammar you use, whether it's a grammar of horror, of musicals, of comedies, of rom-coms, whatever, as long as it's strong, confident and smart, and it makes people go forward and not backward. So I try to blend all this. I'm against these boxes completely.
Yeah, I know Luc Besson is part of that, and the Transporter films, the Taken films and all the rest of it are meant to be expressions from the French of the kind of films that we should be making, but yet you also make beautiful art house films as well, and you're basically saying that you just don't see the need for there to be attention.
No, I think entertainment can elevate you as well. That's it.
Now, what kind of filmmaker do you want to be? This is your first film.
Trying to be myself, and it's already very hard.
How do you mean?
What? What do I mean?
Yeah, what do you mean?
Learning to be confident about your voice, and to be less and less to yield less and less to the other voices, or the temptation of deviating from what you want to say and stuff, because you're afraid of what you have in your mind and of your sick mind, as someone called them. You know, some people call it. So, I mean, yeah, I intend to I hope I'm going to gain more and more confidence, and I think that will be already good.
Okay, well, with this being your first film, it's a very, very promising sign, because there's no sign of nervousness in the film.
No, it's not.
Unless you're going to tell me that your original cut was terrible and that someone came in and fixed it.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, the thing is that it's just, I think, when you make a movie, you really have to be unapologetic from A to Z. And that's really, I managed to do what I wanted on this one. It's not granted that I managed on the other one. It's you go back from scratch every time. That's the thing.
I just have two more questions for you. Is there a gender issue in the French filmmaking world? It's a big issue here. It's a big issue, as you probably know, in America, where everyone's talking about the balance or the imbalance between male directors and female directors. Does that exist in France?
Yeah, very much. I think it's really much worldwide. I think that I hope that something that has started a few years ago and is just at the premises, and that is going to gain power until finally, maybe someday, maybe we both probably will be dead, obviously, but we'll find the real equality someday in any kind of field, you know. And with work, whether it's a movie business or any other business, it's certainly not there yet.
And just one final question, and this is nothing to do with film per se. There is, again at the moment, a cultural war going on about feminism and the definition of feminism and what is it to be a feminist.
It's in the dictionary. It's very simple.
It's supposed to be, but now there's so many different definitions and complexions of feminism that some women who you would think would be, what a feminist, look at what she's doing, actually come out and say, don't call me a feminist. I don't want to be tarred by the press. What's your view? Or do you have a view on...
Of course I do.
Yeah?
I consider my movie to be feminist. I consider myself to be feminist. I mean, I'm not going to shoot against my own side. That would be stupid. Feminism promotes equality between genders. That's all. That's all there is. Saying, oh no, I don't want to be called a feminist because I love men. I love men as well. Come on, this is so stupid. It's not side against one side. The promotion of a side, it works for humanity in general. Us being equals is good for all of us. That's all.
Yeah, are you aware of the arguments taking place in this country at least, and perhaps I think in America as well, but certainly in this country, where feminism is almost being seen as synonymous with misandry, with hatred of men?
This is so stupid. Oh my God! I mean, men can be feminist. People are afraid of this word just because there is the word femme, women, in it, because it comes from Latin. But just look at the definition if you're afraid of the word, and that's all. Who can say, who has a mother, a wife and children, and who is herself a woman or whatever, who can say, I do not want equality between genders? For me, it defies reason. I don't get it.